Hello, higher ed. Hello, hello. It is 1 p.m. Eastern on this beautiful Hoosier Hysteria Friday, January the 9th, the first working Friday for most of us here in 2026. My name is Soup Campbell, and you're about to experience something completely different. This is the very first episode of First Fridays with the Crossroads crew. Over the next hour, our plan is to talk about a variety of topics, some that have to do with higher ed, the space that the five of us love and work in, some that are timely, some that have to do with pop culture, sports, sneakers, travel, Jeeps, who knows what else, lots of other things that we find interesting. This will be your unfiltered view of what's happening across the higher ed industry and beyond. Each episode, you'll pick up some tips and ideas that you can use, get a chance to ask our crew some questions. And for some of you, well, this might also become your monthly stress release. So why don't you go on now? If you haven't already done so, jump in the chat and introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from today. Are you guys ready to have a little fun? Brad Ward, what do you say? Let's crew it up.
We are the Crossroads crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward, drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads crew.
Hello again. Hello again. My name is Soup Campbell. For anyone out there that I don't know, yes, Soup. I've been stuck with that forever. I'm going to be your host, your guide, and possibly your chaos conductor for First Fridays. We've got big conversations, big personalities, and even bigger opinions about yield, leadership, AI, the college football playoff, whatever the heck else comes to flying across the desk today. All of today's topics and the approximate time that we will get to each one is starting to scroll across the bottom of your screen. These guys gave me a script. I think they're worried that I can't keep us on pace here, so we'll see how I do today. Okay, for those of you that don't know me, my real name is Harrison Campbell. I am the Vice President of Campus Partnerships at Ardeo Education Solutions. Before I introduce the rest of the crew, I want to quickly share why we decided to create this show. Okay, so a lot of you all know that there's a group of us here in Indiana. Last year, we started getting together. We've all worked in higher ed for a long time. And since we started doing that, a lot of our friends and colleagues out there, a lot of you have said, we wish we could kind of experience something like that, or how could we be involved? We started the Crossroads crew last year because we wanted to provide just additional support for each other. And so we're starting this show so we can give you some of that kind of support and encouragement. And I like to think, if you're joining us today and you feel like your cup is kind of empty or your cup is maybe only half full, we hope to be able to pour into that cup today. And if you're joining today and you feel like my cup is full, pour into those of us that are out there that are joining that might need a little bit of a lift. So that's our focus for today. And we're going to be going through some different segments. And so I'm going to do my best to keep us on track as we go through. But first, let's start by doing some introductions to the rest of the members of the Crossroads crew. Let's introduce the crew, starting with the men holding down what we call the knowledge table. You know, some shows out there today have things like a toxic table, but we're going to do something a little more positive. We're going to bring some wisdom, some wit, and just enough unhinged energy to get you through another month. First up, the godfather of higher ed branding himself. He's a two-time author, generative AI evangelist, host of the Higher Ed Marketer podcast, and president of Kaler Solutions, the OG of this crew, Bart, the brand Baron Kaler. Welcome, Bart.
Thank you, sir.
Bart is here to remind us that your website probably needs some help, and your logo might need a little refresh as well. It might still have a little clip art look to it. So great to have Bart with us. Next to him, the man, the myth, the enrollment whisperer. He can take your admissions team to the top tier with his innovative training workshops. He can help personalize your enrollment communication and enhance your leadership skills. You've probably heard his Mission Admissions podcast and chances are somebody on your team gets his weekly newsletter every Tuesday morning. He's our coach and the founder and president of Top Tier Higher Ed, the one and only Jeremy Tears.
What's up,
Jeremy
everybody?
will be dropping recruiting knowledge. He's going to be dropping recruiting knowledge today, like Oprah drops giveaways. You take some knowledge, you get some knowledge. I don't know. We might have younger professionals on with us today that
I like that though, Soup. Oprah's good. That's good. I like that.
We're aging ourselves already. All right, we'll take a look. We'll cut over to our control room. We actually have a control room behind the scenes. The wizard behind the curtain. He's a man who has traveled the world and has some of the best stories. He once caught a raccoon with his own bare hands. He's the CEO of Blue Fuego, our very own maestro of digital magic, Brad, the engineer of chaos Ward. If anything breaks today, blame him. If anything works today, also blame him. And also, just FYI, just so you all know, if you see Brad and it looks like, man, is he even paying attention? It looks like he's not even really wanting to be a part of this. Just know he's running this whole show. So he's on camera with us, but he's keeping everything running in the background. And so we're happy to have
also
Brad.
My chance to get on camera and tell you we're already 2 minutes behind, Soup.
We got to beat up. All right. So, and finally, sitting in his virtual chair somewhere out in America, the calm, stoic, two-time state champion runner-up and Indiana ACAC Service Award winner, a man who could read a Common App faster than most people can read a tweet, a guy who cuts through the noise and focuses on what actually works. He's built on impact over hype, rooted in faith and service. Mr. Purdue, Mr. Cubs, Ryan Barble, give it up.
Good to see you guys.
Look at him. He's locked in, just laser focused, probably recalculating a GPA in his head as we speak. He's just an absolute dog. All right. We've got through the introductions. Throughout the show, again, we want to hear from you. Be active in the chat. This isn't just about us. This is about bringing our whole community to get together. At different points during each episode, we'll do what we call pulse checks, where we ask you to answer specific questions in the chat. We also encourage you at any time during the show to post your questions for us, because each episode we will have a couple audience Q&A segments. All right. Grab your coffee, your tea. I've got sweet tea, your Diet Coke, your leftover donuts, whatever you need. It is time to dive into our first topic. So let's get after this. I'll try to make up some time. We're going to kick things off today with New Year's resolutions, right? Who doesn't like to talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions? So who wants to kick us off? Who wants to kick us off? Brad, Ryan, Bart, Jeremy, who's got something?
I will.
Go for it, Bart.
So this year I decided to go ahead and go full force into the full focus planner. Just needed to get something more dialed in and trying to keep track of some habits. I've been walking pretty regularly every morning since July. And so I'm just trying to build on those habits. So habit tracking is what I'm all about this year.
Yeah, I love that.
Important. Super important.
I've never been a big New Year's resolution guy. I'm more of a one word for the year type of guy. Shout out to John Gordon. If you guys haven't read any of his books, I highly encourage you to do that. This year, I've selected the word clarity for me. I just want to don't want to lose sight of what matters most, right? Your faith, your family, your career, and just being present, right? Now, all that being said, I'm kind of like Bart. I need to get back on the walking trail. So our family, we made our first big commitment. We're going to Disney this year in late April. So I made a resolution to do 10,000 steps per day. So hopefully somebody can hold me to that.
Your kids know you're going to Disney, right?
Yeah. So we did a big reveal at Christmas, and they had various different presents that they opened. That the last one said that you're going to Disney World. So yeah, they know.
Sweet.
Okay.
I'll give you mine real quick, and I've been doing it now for, 6-7 years. Oh God, I already did it. My daughter somewhere, if she's watching, I totally intentionally didn't do that, but clearly it's on my brain. We made it 9 minutes. Just giving gratitude every morning. I mean, I start my day, and people know this. Anybody who's tuned in, when I do training workshops, I talk about this. Like, I start every day the same way, no matter where I am. I literally out loud say the words I am grateful for, and I fill in the blank with something different 365 days a year. And just, I find that puts my mind in the right, stuff. And it's been neat to have other people tell me they've started doing that and just found value in it too.
Love it.
I'm jumping on the Luke Phillips bandwagon here in the chat. This year, I resolved to ask, what problem are we solving before building another dashboard?
Ooh,
I like that. I like that.
I do like that. I do like
Luke,
that.
I gotta push us forward. We got to get to yield,
Yeah.
man. What
So
we've been hearing? What we've been hearing?
Yeah, so let's jump in like segment 2. Let's jump in real quick. We're gonna keep things moving. What have we been hearing? I think one of the things that all of our audience can benefit from the 5 of us, between the 5 of us, like we reach a lot of colleges and universities. So we talk, we get a lot of information. So this segment's all about what we've been hearing. So I don't know if maybe Bart, you would want to kick us off on just things you've been hearing with some of the conversations you've been having with folks.
Yeah, I've got 2 things. What I'm seeing and hearing, both kind of the same thing. Those schools that are leaning into their mission are doing better than others that are not. And what I mean by that is that if you are clear in who you are and how you are articulating that, and you're actually pulling in the right students, you're doing better. In the faith area, the folks that are leaning into that and expressing that are doing much better than those who are trying to be all things to all people. And so I think that if, depending, even if you're not faith-based, just leaning into who you are and clarifying that and being articulate, I think is making a big difference.
Love that. Jeremy, or go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say, I think everybody's hearing it, but visits are down, right? And so as the application becomes more of an inquiry, people are waiting until more of the decision making process is pushing closer and closer towards May 1. And so fall visits, spring visits, I know some schools were impacted with weather in December and had to shuffle some stuff into 2026. But it's just going to continue to be what are you offering, and what is the real reason for them to come and to commit the time to come to campus? You've got to have a clear call to action and a clear what's in it for them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to piggyback that a little bit. I recently wrote an article on LinkedIn entitled "Enrollment Did Not Collapse. The Old Playbook Did." And in my opinion, it's the old playbook. They relied on some of those old tactics, right? Those old traditional tactics, the same outreach, the same messaging, assume the students are behaving the same. Those aren't working anymore, right? We all know about the demographic shift and all, but students are changing their timeline and their deadlines. I think we just need to keep up with that in order to push the needle a little bit and recognize that, hey, there's new strategies out there. Look for real personalization, which I'm sure Jeremy will talk about here in a little bit. Versus just, the generic personalization. So just a willingness to rethink old assumptions.
It's really smart, like that.
Yeah, and I'll go back to what Bart said earlier when we talked about just, New Year's resolutions. I continue to just have conversations with people, honestly, from the VP level down to brand new. I literally had this conversation twice yesterday with 2 people who are in their first week at a couple of different schools. You're obviously going to be asked to do more with less. Higher ed is notorious that it's not changing anytime soon. And so if you do not have the habits and time management and organization, it makes life so much harder. And I just see so many people out there that are working their tails off, but quite honestly, they're just going from task to task, starting, stopping, no real plan. And so having some sort of a plan, everything from time blocking to just how you're prioritizing your to-do list, it's never been more important, I think, for all of us.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Love that. If we haven't already done this before we do move on to the next segment here in just a second, for everyone that's watching, if you haven't been in the chat or maybe post something that's just been on your mind kind of here recently, or share something that's just kind of been weighing on you with the work that you do, where we could discuss and kind of see and get a pulse of kind of how you're feeling in your offices. We'd love to hear that as well. Any last final thoughts before we wrap on just kind of some of the things we've been hearing before
I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
I literally had a director and a VP email me this morning about this to get my feedback. And it was a conversation around, what their president has been saying lately. And it's this idea of, I think, quantity over quality. And it's, hey, does our staff need to be making more phone calls and sending more emails? And and it's like what we were talking about before we jumped on air, the 5 of us, right? Oh, well, you know what? I'm up an app, so that must mean we're going to have a record year. No, don't get caught in that, right? I think it's so important to remind anybody who's a leader listening, or just anybody who, again, recruits, really focus on developing deeper relationships, because if you do, you are going to stand out by the nature of the fact that very few people are actually committing the time to do that. people are so focused on just, oh, I have to make 100 calls. Let me do that so I can check that off back to my to-do list, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, people still do calling nights. Is that still a thing?
Oh, it's still a thing, very much.
Oh,
so.
it is. I love that, man. The only way I could get my staff to do that back in the day was buying all the pizza, bringing them food, bringing them drinks. So, all right, let's shift gears. I think we're right here on pace to segue into segment number 3, where we're going to talk about yield. I mean, when is it not yield season these days? So it's always yield season. So I want to spend some time on talk about that. Maybe a good 8-9 minutes here. So let me kick this segment off with a question. Why do you think so many colleges struggle with converting their admitted students? So we'll kind of just start there with my crew here, and anyone that wants to kind of lead in on a response to that, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, what I constantly see is it's a volume and quantity thing. So if you're a school that has 2,000 admits, you probably have 8 to 10 counselors. So that's 200 plus families per counselor. As you scale that up to 10, 15,000 admits, your counselor team does not scale with that, right? And so a lot of admissions teams spend a lot of time on kids who are never coming in the first place. So the inability to identify those students and invest your time in the right spot and in the right space is essential, and has always been that way. But as you know, applications have shot through the roof, and yield has plummeted in the last 20 years. It's an inverse relationship. And so, yeah, schools just need to get better at putting their time and effort in the right place.
Well,
I think too.
yeah,
go ahead, Jeremy.
No, you go. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. I still think there's 3 big reasons why they struggle with yield. One, these students are just flooded with transactional and really generic messaging, right? It all feels automated. It's not relational, right? And we talk a lot when we get together about how big relationship building is and whatnot. So it just feels that way. 2, I think this, admission teams are still waiting for these students to raise their hand as well, and they're not being proactive enough, in my personal opinion. So actually learning, again, I talked about this a minute ago, learning about their timelines, their concerns, how they feel about the decision-making process and all.
Yeah, that's so important, Rye. I mean, I encourage anybody, look at your comm flows that you're sending to your admitted students. I mean, if it's the same bullet points, if it's the same talking points, and all you're doing for your calls to action every time is telling them to sign up for an admitted student event or submit their deposit, which, by the way, why would they do that, especially if they don't have a financial aid package yet, which a lot of schools haven't done that. That transactional stuff, Rye, that you just talked about there, I mean, it ends up becoming so annoying and frustrating for students and families. And on that note, I'll throw you one more reason why I think yield is down, and that's parents. It blows my mind still to this day when I am on these campuses and I'm literally, asking, hey, do you have a parent comm flow? Well, we see them on some things. Okay, but do you have a separate parent comm flow?
Yeah, you
Well,
gotta
what do you mean? And I'm like, you have to develop relationships with parents too. I mean, 99.9% of students, right, can't afford college on their own. And yet, even, if you're working with, a first gen, for example, they're still relying on somebody in this process. And so I really hope higher ed in 2026, one of my big hopes is that we turn the corner when it comes to communicating with parents. And we just, I'm about to go through this myself. So my daughter's halfway through her sophomore year of high school. So it's going to be really interesting over the next, year and a half to see, all right, how many schools actually try to communicate with my wife, Jenny, and I, and how many are just all about sending, my daughter, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting.
Go ahead, Zoop.
I was just going to say, I would be curious, those of you that are watching with us, if you could jump in the chat, I would be curious.
Yeah, I was actually going to just bring in a question, if you're cool with that. Somebody asked, what's your point of view when you hear leadership say we need to develop more of a sales culture in admissions?
Ooh.
Well, it's understanding that if you do your job right, you can sell without selling.
Yep.
I mean, people want to vomit information all the time when they have conversations. And here's the problem. You have no idea what that person already knows. And so if you would just slow down and say, let me actually figure out who this person is, recognize if I know nothing about them, that I know nothing about them, but I'm interested in learning more, why they're interested in my school, what they think they want out of their college experience. And then you start talking about different aspects of your student experience. You're still selling your school, but you're not selling it in a way that feels salesy, because all you're doing is filling in the blanks and doing follow-up based on how you're getting engagement. And higher ed's doing it backwards. They're giving information first, instead of getting engagement first.
Yeah, it's relationship selling.
It's relationship.
I'll say this. I'll say this. Here's an easy way we can think about this. Think of how all of us hate being sold to, like the things about being sold to that we don't like. We don't like random out of the blue messages that seem like, what is this? Like voicemail I just got left. I don't, we don't like when we see something that looks so automated where we're like, this was obviously sent to just a mass amount of people. So they're just think personally what we don't like when we're being sold to, and then maybe do an assessment of, well, are we doing any of those things with the way that we're conducting our outreach to students? Are we doing any of those same things? So obviously, if we don't like those things, if we feel yucky about that kind of process, well, certainly students are probably going to feel the same way if we're using those same techniques and tactics. So that's one way you could kind of just self-audit yourself.
Sounds like George Costanza, do the opposite of what.
Yeah, exactly. I
was going to add my radar is strictly small privates. Those are the schools we work with. But I think if I were to go to an institution and go into the lunchroom and go to a few random tables and say, hey, do you remember your admission counselor's name? The schools where every student says, yes, it was so-and-so. Those are the schools that have the best yield among those we work with.
Brad, I love that you brought that up because every time I partner with a school, I do surveys and there's an open-ended comment box question that literally says verbatim, tell us what you remember about the admission staff, like whatever you're comfortable sharing, please. And it is, I wish I could say, not extremely rare, but it's extremely rare to see more than one or two people mentioned by name. And this is an anonymous survey. We don't incentivize it. So for somebody to say, cool, I'm going to mention my admissions counselor by name and say something nice about him or her, like to your point, you have to be memorable for that to be happening.
Yeah. Shout out Raymond Barnett, who was my admission counselor, by the way.
That's amazing.
So one of the things I was just going to jump on some of the things that I'm seeing problems with yield is to kind of go back to what Jeremy and Ryan both were talking about with transactional. You have to be able to differentiate yourself to the fullest degree when you are in yield season, because you've got people that are looking at you versus the other 5 places that got accepted to. And so now all of a sudden you have to almost start from fresh to introduce them to who you are. We're actually working on a yield microsite right now for a website for a school, because they realize that we have to improve yield, and the best way we can improve yield is to make sure they understand who we are and how life is going to be when they come. And so the website's very deep in more student life type of things. And so I think that you really have to show that differentiation, because if you don't, you're just going to be vanilla, and it's going to come down to cost or some other commoditized type of thing, as opposed to really helping students understand why you might be the best fit, even though you might not be the cheapest.
Well, and I'll piggyback on somebody who's just, in the chat here labeled guest, so I'm not sure who it is, but, talked about coming from a private university background and, having a more of a sales, call center sales admissions team where like larger publics. And I think it's a huge misnomer that like, if you're a midsize or a large public or flagship, well, we can't do personalization and we can't scale, and we can't 100% you can, unless you don't have a CRM, which very few schools, obviously. There's a few, ironically, right? And I know we know some of those schools who don't have that technology, but like the technology is there. It's just getting everybody on the same page. And on that note, if you don't feel comfortable with your CRM and you're listening to this, please, please, please be intentional this year about learning more, because it's the best tool you have. And so many people don't know how to use 1/10 of it. I keep finding. So
love it. Love it. That's a great place to close out that segment. That was incredible. Thank you for your insights. And I'm loving all of the comments I'm seeing in the chat. Let's transition into a topic on leadership. Those of us here on the Crossroads crew, we kind of joke we're on the back 9 at this point in our careers. And so, leadership is a really big deal in higher ed, and we've got seasoned, experienced leaders. We've got young professionals in our industry that we desperately want to help mentor and shape. And so this is something that's critical. We want to spend a few minutes to talk about. So one of the things that kind of a first little topic that I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about is the importance of just great one-on-one meetings for middle senior managers, just as a way to better understand what additional support their staff needs. With yield, more students, where common challenges with multiple staff maybe, but are we all doing great one-on-one meetings? Are there tips for how to navigate that, to how to make those better? I think, Jeremy, you're someone I'd love to lead off on this one because I think this is in your wheelhouse. You do a lot of work in this area.
Yeah, and you guys know how passionate I am about leadership, and my good friend DJ Menifee, who I'm sure most of you guys know, and I'm sure some of the people tuning in know. I mean, we talk all the time about anyone can lead, right? Leadership is not about a title; it's about like how you treat other people and how you make them feel, and So I think the first thing is understanding you don't have to have a title to be a leader, but if you are actually managing, right, direct reports. First thing I would say is it's so important that you consistently do these one-on-ones. And when I have one-on-ones, and I go to these training workshops, I meet literally with usually about 15 to 20 people one-on-one when I'm on a campus. And a number of leaders a lot of times say, well, I end up pushing those, I get busy. And I'm like, you can't ever do that again. And I try to empathetically let them know, like, you send a very clear message to your team that these really aren't important. And the only reason we're doing is to like check a box, basically. If you push, for example, or hey, just send me any thoughts or questions you have in email, like that sends a very clear message to your team that like this isn't that important, even if you're not trying to send that message, right? And so number one, it's doing the meetings, and then number two, it's really being curious. I had Ann Johnson, who's at North Dakota State, on my podcast. Gosh, it's probably been, I don't know, I think it was in the 20s, and I'm in the 80s for episodes now. So it's been a couple of years, but like Ann talked a lot. We did a whole episode on one-on-ones, and she talked about how much she leans into curiosity. And I really encourage, anybody listening, have questions ahead of time that you want to ask your staff. Like, you got to get out of those surface level. Hey, Bart, how's it going? Good. Awesome. And we're kind of just sitting there staring at each other. And Bart's like, well, I'm not going to tell Jeremy if he's my boss if I'm struggling. But if you ask the right questions, you'll absolutely be able to figure out whether your staff is doing the things you need them to do, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that going along with that, once you know your staff and you know the strengths, empowering them so that you're not the bottleneck for everything, I think is a really important thing that I've learned in my leadership over the last 5 to 10 years as my staff, as my team has grown and I've gotten layers of management underneath me, is that a lot of times I'm the worst enemy of my company because I'm the one that bottlenecks everything. And I think that's true in higher ed too, is that if you are either a director or a VP that, everything has to come to you to get, approved, you're slowing down the effectiveness of your team, and you really got to trust them and build that trust. And I think those one-on-ones are so critical for them to trust you and you to trust them. And that only happens in relationship. That's kind of like our word of the day, isn't it, Ryan?
So. It is. And I think
Ryan,
too,
Ryan, before you jump in, you can, but I want you to like specifically answer this question that Cody had in the chat. This is a really good question, and I think you could speak to this. But Cody had asked, like, looking back, like, what do you wish you understood earlier about leading in higher education? So, like, I mean, Ryan, I know you and we've all been in this for a long time, but I'd love for you to like.
I think early on in my career, I was quick to spit out the answers and be a solution, right? I didn't listen first. So I think that's the way I'm going to answer that question. Is the key, in my opinion, you got to listen first. Don't just jump in with those solutions. Let them share their wins. Let them share their struggles. Let them share their ideas too, right? Sometimes we do have to, as leaders, we have to say no. Yeah. But there's a lot of times where there's probably a really good, idea that has been brought up. So I would definitely say let them lead the discussion first. Bring those ideas and share it with that. So
can I share something? Can I share something funny real quick? Just some so a lot of people don't know this, but Ryan and I have known each other for a long time, like here in Indiana ACAC. I can remember years and years ago thinking, who is this young guy? And that like when we would go to our conference, our annual conference, who's this young guy? He seems like he knows everything. And looking back, it's so funny. That was Ryan, but Ryan just was so, if there's one thing I could tell young professionals in our industry right now, get involved. Ryan would volunteer for everything. He would put me on the committee. If some people don't want to do it, I'll do it. And it's so funny when I look back and I think about who I thought Ryan was, when he was young, but who he actually is so different. So we maybe got just one last second on this.
I'll just add something I heard early in my career on this thought of leadership in higher ed. Before I started Blue Fuego, I was at a point where I was taking personal days to go speak at conferences because I wasn't sure what's the level of comfort here for professional development of that type. And somebody basically shared the thought that what happens if you give your staff too many professional development opportunities and they leave? The alternative is, what if you don't and they stay? And so my boss at the time, Stephanie, Illinois College, with Butler together, and I remember when I left, she said like this is the win. I've moved you to that next step in your career. And so from a leadership perspective, people are going to leave, people are going to come and go. But, is it better to have a bit of a revolving door where people are moving up or within the organization moving up versus having the same staff for 15 years and nothing ever changes, right? Yep. And so it's okay for people to grow in their profession and grow in their role. Kelly, I see Kelly over here. I know we just lost a dear staff member who moved up and moved on. But to me, that's kudos. You gave those opportunities for that growth. And
that says something about the leader, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about the college football playoffs later. And if anybody listening's a football fan, right? How many Nick Saban disciples were Final Four?
Yeah.
Right. Adam Castro, my good friend at Mercy College, he calls it his coaching tree, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with having that coaching tree.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, we got to make up some time. We're getting into segment 5 here. And so this is where we'll kind of throw it actually back to Brad, as we've been getting some great questions. So Brad, if you want to tease up any questions that you are seeing that are coming in from the chat.
They are flowing in. Man, where do we go? I know you all are keeping an eye on it with me as well. They're coming in so fast I can hardly see them.
Let's see.
Yeah, these are all good.
I see a good one here from Joseph. What leadership framework or systems have you seen work well in higher ed organizations?
Ooh, good question.
Well, part of it involves, again, your onboarding process, right, for any new staff. And, one of the things I've been asked to do more, and I just encourage anybody listening, you can do this yourself internally, especially if you're on the leadership side. You need to audit your onboarding process from everything that you do on the training side to, again, are you immediately starting to, pair them up with somebody who's been there, for example, longer, or, are they going to start doing one-on-ones in those first couple of weeks? There's not enough structure I continue to see in a lot of college admission and marketing offices. It's very much talk to your neighbor, go figure it out. And 9 out of 10 people, it doesn't work for them that way.
Yeah, I think there's a really good book out there called The First 90 Days. And when I first started my leadership journey, I read through that, and it was a really good framework for me going into leadership. So I would encourage you maybe to take a look at that book. And there's several other great resources and books and resources out there for you.
Let me throw one more out there. Luke Phillips. This is the second time I shout out Luke. Luke, I don't even know if I know you, so LinkedIn, connect with me. I love the stuff you're saying. What enrollment growth decisions do institutions often delay too long?
Oh, wow.
I'm just going to say investment in digital.
I'm going to say investment in their team. I mean, we could talk all day about all kinds of things that you can invest in, but you're investing in a CRM. Again, how many people in your staff, right, can actually run the CRM? I see Drew Carr's on here. He and I have talked about this many times, right? You can't have 1 or 2 people that know how to operate your CRM. What happens if those people leave? Right. At the end of the day, I mean, you have to invest more in your people. And that's why, real quick, one of the leadership hills that I will die on is this idea of leaderships should never be recruiting. They should never be writing Conflow. Their job is to lead 100% of the time. And that involves a massive amount of time pouring into their people if they're doing it right. Doesn't mean they can't do strategic planning too. They can. But leaders having territories, leaders doing second full-time jobs, we have to stop this. because it goes back to, again, somebody else's question around, well, like turnover. And yeah, I mean, there's a correlation there.
I think one thing I would add to that is that I think that we delay too much, too long. Higher ed is notoriously known for waiting and being slow as molasses. And I think if we were in any other industry, decisions would be made much quicker in the way that they need to be implemented. And so I think that just kind of keeping a good pace on making decisions, I think, is important.
Yeah, Bart stole my thunder. I was going to say speed to lead.
Exactly.
I've been preaching that a lot lately. We are so slow in higher ed to make those decisions, and sometimes you're going to fail sometimes with it, but also I think fail forward, right? And give it a good try. But other times you're going to succeed as well throughout the process.
Okay, good stuff. We gotta pick up the pace here a little bit. I love that stuff. Love the information on leadership, but we've got to talk about the college football players. All right, let's go. Who's your name?
And to change my hat.
This is just my state fair shirt. I've worn it to the state fair every year for like a decade.
How's everybody feeling?
Ryan's feeling like crap because Purdue's football team was terrible this year. But sorry, Ryan, I had to throw that out there.
No, it's totally fair. And in all transparency, though, this Indiana team's really good. They're really good, guys. They're disciplined.
Hard for a Purdue fan to say that too.
It is hard. They're disciplined. They're physical. They're smart. Like, they play with a ton of heart. I like Coach Sig, guys. I didn't say that too loud. Google him. He wins. All that fun stuff. But that being said,
listen, this is going to be a storybook ending.
I do think the Ducks are going to win.
Ryan, you're terrible. This is going to be a storybook ending. I said it. If my beautiful wife was listening to this, she'd be able to back me up. When the bracket came out, I said, here's the storybook ending. Indiana against Miami. In Miami, it's essentially a home game for the Hurricanes, and Fernando Mendoza grew up literally 2 miles from that campus in Miami. So I see no reason why the football gods hopefully don't shine on the Hoosiers tonight and we get IU Miami in the final. So,
but isn't this why we love college football, like in sports in general? But like why we love college football is the stories that it presents. And I watched that game last night a little bit. The leadership, you saw that firsthand, right? When those guys took the podium, when the Miami team took the podium, they weren't talking about themselves. They were talking about their brothers and their teammates. And I thought that was just awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, I will say this. Yes, maybe Signetti has had a lot to do with this, with the Hoosiers. My youngest son is a sophomore at IU. And so this turnaround happened the second that he enrolled. And so I just think he brought something special to IU.
Moving on.
Soup, I got 2 words for you. Mark Cuban.
Hey, I will say this, though. I got the best Christmas present on Christmas Day. Guess who actually accepted my connection request on LinkedIn, which happens to be the only real social media platform that he uses. The Fernando and I are now close connections on LinkedIn. So,
or some AI bot posing as Fernando.
Oh no, it's him. Definitely him. Anything else on the college football? So
I've already moved us on. Look at the
right, so we got to go. Okay, so we got to talk quickly. Maybe this is just 1 minute. Favorite TV shows we're watching right now. For me, I just wrapped up Stranger Things, so I'm taking a break.
Landman on
Bart, it is anybody who is not watching Landman needs to watch it. The other one my wife and I started watching, and there's 8 seasons of it. We're only on season 1, is Homeland on Netflix. Really good.
Really good. So I'm a big fan of The Bear. I actually did a presentation last year about how The Bear exemplifies leadership and all the key takeaways that higher ed can learn from that show. Yes, it's a little raunchy, it's a little messy, but it's real, and to me, it's a perfect reminder of what leadership looks like, because you don't always have to have all the answers in that process. You got to listen, you got to adapt, and you got to bring out the best in your team. So for me, it's always been The Bear.
Love that.
I'm a homesteader. I don't have time for TV.
Oh,
I'm netting the ducks, or I'm reading a book, or I'm building a fence.
That is true. Brad.
Sorry.
Yeah, Brad is the most non-technology, but yet he's the one that runs all this stuff.
No,
and can do
I'll do this all day, but wrap it up. We got other stuff to do too.
Oh my God. Okay, hopefully in the chat you all drop some of the shows you've been watching. We would love to know what you've been seeing. Add some shows to our list, but we need to pause for a second because
We got a really important birthday that's happening. We have a dear friend of all of ours, especially mine, Miss Lindsay Spear. I think you're on the call. I saw you earlier chime in go cards. But Lindsay's been a great friend since day one of this profession with me. I would encourage you to find somebody like her. She just makes us all better people, better professionals. And if you want to experience the best conference, in late February, come to Indiana ACAC. So I'll leave it at that.
Happy birthday, Lindsay. Happy
Lindsay,
birthday.
Lindsay.
Can I just note, as soon as I started talking about all the things that need to be done, this cat just I need to make sure the kids fed the cats in the barn.
I haven't heard the dog in a minute, Brad.
I know my kids are actually watching right now because yeah. Kids, go check on the cat. Make sure food and water is all set up. And
I'm gonna love it if
the water bowl the water's not frozen. All right.
All right. Let's
go.
Let's get back to the important stuff. Let's keep it rolling. Let's spend a few minutes on financial aid. I think that's an area. And again, if you're more of an enrollment, where the background I come from, maybe sometimes it's tough to wrap our heads around financial aid, but we want to spend some time talking about that. So, what if we look at marketing teams right now, what ways should marketing teams be communicating to families around financial aid and financial information? What are some things from the crew that you think should be happening?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most missed opportunities because you've got, you're on the 1 yard line with these families. And if you're not taking the time to reiterate your messaging, reiterate your differentiation, explain to them why they have stuck with it so far, it has to be more than a transaction. It drives me up a wall when I end up at a school and they show me their financial aid award packet and letter, and it's just standardized. And it's like, come on, this is the opportunity to finalize this and win the game. And so you've got to really make sure that your messaging is a part of this communication.
Yeah. Laura says proactive. It's, again, one of these opportunities where back to building relationships that we talked about earlier, right? And trying to, develop those connections with prospective students and families. Most families, right, they're going to be in what I like to call one of three buckets, right? They've been through this process before. Right. They understand how it works. You don't need to do a whole heck of a lot with them in terms of education. Some, right, know a little bit, but it's just a little bit. And some, it's just like, right? Like we know nothing. And so I'll use the word education. And I think, again, back to transactional, too much of it is, here's how to fill out the FAFSA. Here's a link for that. Here's this, all of which is important. But I think it's so important to find a way to ask a family, whether it's an admissions counselor or you have a marketing drip campaign that does this, how are you feeling about the financial aid process and having to pay for college? Because very few families and students go to school for free. And just opening up that dialogue, I think, can be, again, super, I'll say, ROI positive for the schools that are doing it, because it helps them better understand what these families need from them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think, to kind of piggyback, Jeremy, you've said this, I think, a few times in your newsletter, stop asking the basic questions, right? Do you have your FAFSA in or anything like that? Everyone knows that you got access to your CRM to see that it's in or not. Mm-hmm. Dive into the tough stuff, right? Ask them, hey, what's holding you back from saying yes?
Yeah.
What fears do you have for committing to our institution?
Relationship.
That's where, in my opinion, that's going to make the impact and really show that you're invested in the student, not just a number.
I think we just talked about favorite TV shows, right? And so this is a live environment. We do these with institutions around financial aid and real-time Q&A, but there's also the on-demand content, right? Mm-hmm. And why do you not have a video in your portal walking through your specific award letter for your institution and saying, this is what this means. This is what indirect cost means. This is what direct cost means.
How to read it.
When we build this in, this is the student being employed and actually walking through. And again, it's on demand. So when they're ready to consume that content, it's there and ready for them. And if it's 8 p.m., they don't need somebody in the office to be answering the questions.
Here's a tip.
Offering a follow-up opportunity to submit questions from there.
Yeah, you could either do that with a screencast. I mean, just use Loom and just record a quick screencast, or go in and do a Hey Jen with AI. And if you don't want to be on camera, have an avatar walk through it. I mean, this is an area that students are expecting AI.
A few links in the chat. Loom.com. I did 4 Looms this morning for school, walking them through, and then the other one was you said Hey Jen.
Yeah.
.ai.
Well, and Brad, on your point there, everybody's financial aid package continues to look different. And so just educating them, like, okay, it says net price on some, it says out-of-pocket costs, it says costs after finance. Like, what does yours say? So again, when this family looks at it, even if they don't remember everything you shared in these emails or a conversation, they remember a few things, right? Brad, your cat definitely wants in, by the way.
Yeah, you've got to remember that.
There's a screen there. I usually take off the screen during the winter, and I do just bring the cat in.
Hey, let me ask you guys another question. I think because this is an area where there could be some gaps. If you think about a lot of our first year admission counselors, oftentimes they just graduated from that school. They are very young. But then are we expecting them to have these, to really understand the financial aid process? And so sometimes I worry, do our younger, newer first-year admission counselors need some training, need some support? Obviously, you're going to defer to financial aid counselors, but our admission counselors are the front line. Those are the folks we want really communicating with our students and parents. Are there things we can do to better equip these younger professionals to have the confidence to know how to talk about all things financial aid in the process?
I think it's what Jeremy said earlier. It's invest in your team, right? And get them in front of your financial aid people, get them the tools and resources that they need to have those tough conversations with those families and all. So I think, to me, that's really important, really key.
Yeah, it is. It's education at the end of the day. And I know we got to jump soup to personal planning. And so I would just love, Bart, I'm curious for you, especially just quick advice for anybody when it comes to just things they can do, knowing that, again, like Soup said earlier, the 5 of us are kind of, on the back nines of our career, we'll say. And I know my wife and I have talked a lot about just kind of what that next phase of life looks like for us here in 7 to 10 years. I mean, advice, especially for young professionals, or quite honestly, anybody listening around financial planning?
Yeah, couple things come to mind. One, I saw a TikTok the other day or something on Instagram. Some 20-something was kind of given financial aid advice, and they said, this amount of your money should go toward entertainment. This should go. Don't worry about retirement. That's going to come later. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the worst advice in the world. Because I remember in my first job, I think I was 23, 22, they were like, hey, we're going to start this 401k. And I was like, what's that? And they told me, hey, you just do a little tiny bit. And man, that's grown. I mean, that has exploded. And so that's one thing. The other thing is to, somebody told me early in my career, they said, you're not going to know how to do everything. So build trusted advisors around you, kind of like the Knights of the Round Table. And so I've had the same financial planner now for about 20 years.
Me too.
I've had the same plumber for 25 years, the same electrician. So once you start building experts and you start building the relationships with them, they end up walking life with you because they become the people that you can trust. And so build those relationships early, because it's going to pay off in the long run.
Well, and I'll add real quick, because I know we're about at time, to Bart's point, if it's $25 a paycheck, fine, right? That's what it was, right? When my wife, Jenny, and I first got married 26 years ago, it was, we're just going to put this. And then hopefully as you move on throughout your career, you can change that amount as your income changes. But to Bart's point, the best advice I ever got was absolutely do not wait until retirement, right? Start now, because you don't realize how much that money, right, compounds over time.
Yep.
Compounding interest and dollar cost averaging. Just set it and forget it. My kids, they do $10 of SPY or VOO or VGT, whatever index fund. And it's just $10, and it happens. You don't try to buy low, sell high, whatever. Just
Acorns is another really good tool that just rounds up your transactions and throws it into an account.
Please drop. Can you guys make sure we drop those links to those in the chat?
Yep, I got I put my favorite in there, which is Monarch, but I will link Acorns as well.
Yep.
Okay, let's while we do that, let's transition. I want to talk just for a minute or two here on AI advice. And when you have Bart on the call, you've got an AI expert. So, Bart, why is AI such an important tool? Why is AI such an important tool in higher ed right now? And any advice for if there are folks still out there that feel like we're not there yet, or we're getting pushed back, or we don't know where to start? Just talk to the audience and give us some good advice.
We've done almost 2,000. We've trained almost 2,000 people in our masterclass now, and the thing I constantly hear is the ones that are doing it well are not waiting for permission. There's this thing called bring your own chat to work. And, the idea of using AI well is that you use it as a thought partner and use it to get rid of a lot of your chores. How much of your day, and Jeremy kind of hit it on earlier, is the idea that, when you're looking at how do you get into the habit of really using your time wisely, there's a lot of things that we do, copying and pasting and things like that you don't need to do anymore. I met with somebody the other day for lunch, and we said, hey, let's take a look at the Indiana schools and who do you have relationships with? Who do I have relationships with? I went to Gemini and said, create a Google sheet and list all of the Indiana schools, higher ed, alphabetically down the first column. Second column, put private or public. Third column, put Bart's relationships. Fourth column, the other person's relationships. 2 seconds, I had that done. And I opened up the Google Doc. I put in some notes. I was done in 3 minutes. That would have taken me a half an hour a long time ago to go and find all the colleges and put them into a spreadsheet. Figure out how you can use these things and put the reps in. Also, the other thing I hear people say is, I don't have time to learn AI. That's kind of like what we talked about earlier. I don't have $5 that I can put toward a retirement when I'm 22.
Mm-hmm.
Find a way to do it. Put in the reps and get it done. So that's what I would say.
I think that's good advice. I mean, start small, right? You don't have to do a complete overhaul of your work, right? Pick something small, pick one repetitive task or one communication, and just start small. But as you build your confidence, obviously, that's when you're going to see those small wins and expand from there, essentially.
Chat GPT for everything from subject lines to things that you need to summarize. I mean, it's so easy and basic just to start there, right, Bart?
Thought leadership. Hey, I'm challenged with this particular person on my team. How should I respond to it? What should I do? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. All right. That's good stuff on AI. The last thing I would say about AI is just find trusted people that you can follow. There's a lot of gurus out there with stuff, but find people like Bart, Brian Piper. Find people in our space that really know this stuff, and that's who you need to listen to. Okay, let's get to some Q&A. I think there's been some questions. We want to make sure we've got time as we're getting close.
Got a good one here from Kevin. If I found $5,000 to spend on yield this spring, how should I spend it?
Give your staff all raises seriously, right? If you could, or, again, do some type of, training and/or professional development, with your team. I mean,
a retreat, like a retreat,
or maybe that's a goal. You give a goal, and if we hit the goal, we're going to celebrate, and that's going to pay for the celebration.
Yeah.
My thought would be a high quality, high value swag merch item to a very select, determined audience of fence sitters. That could
I'll give you one more.
I've seen kids deposit to a school because they got a free hoodie.
Exactly. I have too. We've done that a few times.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more that I heard the other day. I mean, we understand how big experiences are, right, with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Imagine if you could find somebody on your campus who's like an artist or somebody who could create something for you. And now that becomes a giveaway. You do at all of your admitted student events. And guess what? The only way you can get this is if you come to an admitted student event, right?
Yeah.
For example, collectibles of everything, right? I know we're going to talk about, some other things here in a sec, but like collectibles, I mean, they're popular amongst so many different groups, young and old, right?
incentivize.
I just threw a link in the chat, redbubble.com. Go search your institution there, and you will find students and people who love you and love your brand who are misusing your logos. But we have found so many students who are designing stickers, and you can put those on pillows, you can put those on throws, whatever. And we've used those as giveaways as well. But again, we're able to engage the student who's making it and saying, hey, can you make a special class of 2030 item for us? And they love getting involved.
Awesome.
All right, as we get close to wrapping up, we are going to try to every episode put the Crossroads crew on the hot seat or in the crosshairs. Now, once we get going with this, you all come to these. You'll come to these much more ready to have something targeted towards us on the hot seat.
Who's in the hot seat today?
Oh, do we have it designated?
I think we should put somebody in the hot seat.
I think it should be
Ryan.
Jeremy. No, let's go Jeremy. Let's go Jeremy.
Soup, stick with the script, which was going to ask you and Ryan about. No, go ahead. What do you got, Soup?
Jeremy's in the hot seat. You can ask Jeremy anything right now. What would you want to know from Jeremy? I've got one. How nervous were you prior to us going live today, Jeremy?
Dude, I wasn't nervous. I was just super excited and jacked. I mean, seriously, like this has been so much fun and we've done so much into this, but it doesn't feel like work, right? It really doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And so no nerves, man. I mean, you speak in front of enough groups enough years in a row, right? And do enough podcasts. So
one of the hot topics that could be a good one for all of us is because most of us on this call have Jeeps or kind of a form of that. Jeremy, you're kind of like with your Grand Cherokee. I guess we could, consider you part of the Jeep club.
It's a Jeep, Soup.
Well, it's not a real Jeep. Oh my gosh. And then of course Brad has a vintage Defender. So we don't even I don't know.
Ryan in the hot seat for a minute here.
So, but with our ducking, if you don't know anything out there about Jeeps and how people duck Jeeps, all right, I think it is the most ridiculous thing in the world. I know.
You don't have any ducks in your Jeep?
Nobody leave. I'm not. No, I don't want any ducks on my Jeep. I don't have the dash lined with
Puddles.
200. Now that's Ryan. Ryan's got tons of them in his Jeep. He loves it.
I don't have tons of them in my Jeep. I'm all for getting ducked and ducking myself. But I don't let them be displayed in the Jeep. We have a shrine in the house here where they are displayed, but not on the Jeep. I love it too. I think, it spreads positivity. It does build a sense of community, so I do like it, but I don't put them on the dashboard.
Teresa says nay on the ducks.
I'm going Team Teresa here. I had a Jeep, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a part of why I got rid of my Jeep. And where we live, we're in the suburbs of Indy. I gave out 47 peace signs in one day, and I was just I was so tired of it. So I went and I've got a little 3D printed version here, the classic Land Rover Defender, 1996 diesel, right-hand drive, stick shift.
It is cool,
like crazy, and everyone looks at it and says,
"Listen, I'm just impressed that Ryan didn't blame his daughters as to why they do ducking."
Yeah,
I thought for sure Ryan was going to be like, "Well, I've got two little girls, and they like to do this," and
I've got Bart in the hot seat. So, Bart, what do you think? You're kind of an outsider on this whole discussion.
It's kind of like those painted rocks when I'm walking
on the trail.
It's kind of like, hey, it's good for the people that want to do that, but it's not good for me. So
what about pet rocks? Is that you never had a pet rock?
I never had a pet rock. No, I'm not that old, man. I'm not the 70s.
Yes, that was a thing when we were kids. Don't lie.
Right. It was that thing when we were kids.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, we are in our last 2 minutes here, so we're gonna wrap things up. So a couple things here as we wrap. First off, thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope that you all will want to do this with us once a month, and we'll get better and better as we go along.
Invite your friends.
Yeah, invite your friends next time. Couple things. The full show, every time we have one of these, the full show will be posted. We have a YouTube page, so if you enjoyed it, or if you had friends that you knew couldn't make it but would love to kind of see it, be a part of it, those will be up on the YouTube page. You can also subscribe, leave comments, all that good stuff. There's a little rumor that if you leave comments on those each month, some of you might be getting some free Starbucks. So just FYI. And then February's show will be Friday the 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I would recommend go on right now on your calendar and just block that time, put a hold so that you know you can make it next month. And then just closing message of encouragement to everybody. Make each day about progress. It's not about perfection. It's can we get 1% better each day? If we do that over time, we're going to get there. Any final, just last single words from the crew?
Purpose. I was going to add one more P, right? Do everything with purpose. And I think that will lead you well moving into the new year here.
Soup, I already got a text from my wife, and the 2 words were "Go Hoosiers," and you should be repping IU like Soup is in his T-shirt.
I just got the text from Kevin at Drury saying, "Hey, this was fun," and I think he said mostly good content. Here's what I'll say: we overloaded.
Kevin never says mostly good content.
Here. No, he says the quality was fun. We didn't know how many people were going to show up. I already said to the guys, I think we're probably going to need a little more Q&A time in the future so that we can, talk about what you want to talk about. So now that we know some of you are going to show up, we'll definitely allow some time for that as well. And hey, maybe we'll start bringing in some special guests and put them in the hot seat, huh?
Ooh,
sounds good.
That's what I like. Thank you, everyone. Brad, take us out.
Thanks, everybody.
We are the Crossroads crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads crew.